Welcome in. I am the Crypto Bull God, and this is All in the Charts. If you appreciate the content, make sure to give a thumbs up. Click the bell icon for all notifications to know when I go live. Things should be picking up here in the fourth quarter of this year. I'm anticipating going live more frequently, and show me some love in the chat. So, as I had shared on my prior live stream, it's been a little bit since I've been out here. I would keep you updated on X or Twitter, however you would prefer to refer to it as. I have been doing that. So if you've been following me on there, you have an account. I've been giving pretty frequent market updates, thoughts on market sentiment, etc., etc. And what I wanted to spend time talking about today is what we could anticipate for Bitcoin's next move, and then what we should be anticipating within the broader altcoin market, by evaluating charts and data like we always do. My sense on things is a lot of the salty behavior isn't because Bitcoin hasn't been performing well. Bitcoin, just as a refresher, everyone, Bitcoin went from 15,000 all the way up to nearly $125,000, okay? The saltiness is coming in because there's been an extended period of time where the majority of altcoins have been underperforming Bitcoin. We have to remember, and we're going to take a look at some charts here that are going to speak to this, but we have to remember that what we call a cycle, right? Whether it's 3.5 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the cycle is, it's comprised in generalities of a bear market and bull market. But even during a bull market, which we're in right now, and we have not exited one bit, there's no chart saying we've exited a bull market. Even when we're in a bull market, there's 90% of the time, 85% of the time, Bitcoin is going to be outperforming most altcoins. Most altcoins, not all, but most altcoins. You got that 10 to 15% of the time, though, where your altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin, and that's when we enter a true alt season. And I think also a lot of people that are either newer to the market or have recency bias based on what we've seen in the past couple years here are forgetting just how quickly the market moves when the market moves. We're going to get into some charts here, but I would encourage you, if you've been invested in this space, like myself, for quite some time, this would be the worst possible time to become impatient and feed into any emotional biases that you may have. It's very important for your success in this market to stick to the objective data, right? That's what we look at on here. We look at charts, we look at data. I'm literally just translating what's on the chart for you. I'm not telling you what I hope is going to happen. Sometimes I like to have fun and give you my sort of outlook and predictions on things. And again, it's just for fun. But the main thing to focus on is the objective data. And I'm going to show you today why you should feel very encouraged, what type of price action we could potentially see over the next 3 to 6 months or so. So let's take a look at Bitcoin here first. So Bitcoin's sort of chopping around here. This is a 12-hour chart. This is a view that we commonly look at on this channel. And let me clearly explain to you what's going on here. So as always, we have the purple 50 simple moving average. We have the pink 200 simple moving average. We don't want to see the 50 cross below the 200. They're sort of kissing right now and making out. More action than I've had in a long time. Hey. But price is sort of consolidating, right? Price is sort of consolidating in here, not really doing much. Now, the formation that I have drawn here is a falling wedge. Falling wedges don't have to break to the upside, but they are a bullish pattern. And in this case, we have broken to the upside, but not surprisingly, we're getting resistance in this area. Why are we getting resistance in this area? Because of the moving averages. Again, basic premise that I've shared countless times. When you're above a moving average, when the candle bodies are above a moving average, they serve as support. Once you break below, it's generally a lot more difficult to break back up above those moving averages, right? And you can see that. We're battling the 50 and 200 right here. You can also see in the shorter term, if you wanted to draw a cleaner view in terms of what sort of consolidation we're seeing on price, you can draw this little ascending line and see the connections there and descending resistance there, right? So right now, you could interpret price as just doing this. And either we're going to break to the downside or upside, right? Now, a lot of people are misinterpreting what September seasonality has meant. When I was more frequent on the channel, and I know I put out live streams around September, I know the one September I had a really cool thumbnail with Carnage on there, and I said Sinister September. So a lot of people misinterpret what September is. It's not that seasonality exists for a reason. Just to take a step back for a moment, seasonality exists for a reason. Seasonality doesn't just exist in charts. Me working in the insurance space, seasonality exists within the life insurance industry. You have higher and lower months of claims that come in for various reasons, okay? During the winter months, a lot of people suffer from pneumonia. You see a spike up. AD&D, accidental death and dismemberment claims. You see a spike up in the summer because people are traveling, okay? Well, when we take a look at the charts here and we look seasonality-wise, how the charts generally move, and maybe I can pull something up here. In general, we see that September tends to be red, but that's not necessarily negative. It could be down 1%, it could be down 2%. Bitcoin monthly returns. So this isn't anything I was planning on bringing up, but since I'm speaking to it, so let's take a look here. Let's see what we got. Okay. So these are monthly returns. You can see I'm going to coinglass.com. Haven't been on that site in a little bit, but I've used it. Now, you look at September here from a cyclical perspective, if we're comparing this, and again, I've spoken to the fact that the halvings are not why these 4-year cycles have existed. There's a bigger business cycle at play. That's helping to form my own macro view on things. In Bitcoin, there's just coincidentally it lines up with the election cycle and liquidity cycles. It's very interesting. But if we go with that 4-year premise and we look at the years that Bitcoin has topped, you can see in 17, September was red. You can see in 21, we were red. But notice in both of those time periods, August was green, huge here. 2021, we were up 14% in August. Look, we got a red August here. There's no reason that we can't flip-flop August and September here. So you have to pay attention to September seasonality. You have to respect September seasonality, but I wouldn't get too frightened based on what we saw in August, okay? And also, historically, you can kind of gloss over some of these years here, and the big years where the markets have topped out. We generally see a very explosive fourth quarter, okay? And there's a lot of charts lining up right now that tell us more than likely we're going to see some explosive price action coming up here. So the 12 hours just sort of trying to find its way. What we'd also want to do, the other thing I'd point out on this chart, these red lines here, red's always for resistance, green's for support. These correspond to lower highs, okay? So in order to truly change the trend around, we want to flip up here, flip this to green support, flip up here, turn this to green support, and be on our merry way. I would say we're out of the woods once we start to clear this red line up here around 117.4. So just above, once we start to close essentially above $117,000 on a daily candle closing basis, most likely we'll be continuing up to hit new all-time highs. Now, this is a really interesting chart that we looked at and created on this channel a short while back. This is a weekly view of the Gaussian. So there's a couple things that I want to communicate regarding this chart. I want to give you an idea of how far prices could pull back and we'd still be okay. I feel like this is a conversation we have every year. Every year we get to this point in the cycle where there's a lot of fear out there, there's a lot of emotion because things aren't moving in the general direction timing-wise and magnitude-wise that everyone expected, right? Because they're looking at the wrong information. But people get emotional, right? And I feel like a lot of the times I've come out here and said, okay, let's take a deep breath, let's relax. And let's actually take a look at where prices could fall back to and we'd still be okay. The other interesting thing that we're going to talk about on this chart is at least this view. This is just one view, right? One of the things I also stress on this channel is the crypto industry has not been here for a long period of time. And so when we're trying to formulate thoughts regarding future potential price action, we only have a limited subset of data to work with, right? Bitcoin was created in what, 2009? The price data really only became relevant in around 2012 or 13. And then you have all these other altcoins that appeared at a later time, 2017, 20, 23, 24. So we have such a limited amount of data. But based on the data that we work with, we try to formulate some views, some prospective-looking views. In this case, on the Gaussian channel holds a lot of historical significance. And I want to revisit two things here. First off, when we flipped to red to green, we're not going to go over all the detail we went through before. But basically, when we flip from red to green, okay, from bearish to bullish, there is a certain time window that we can expect a cyclical top to come in for Bitcoin. And what's projected here is it's based on prior data and then extrapolating also out this maximum time period, a continuation of things lengthening. Because if you look in the past, you will see that 21 topped a little later than 2017 from a Gaussian channel perspective. So in this case, what I'm showing, my mouse is not working. In this case, what I am showing is that we can expect a top based on prior data and based on extrapolating that out for some sort of potential continuing lengthening to be between 760 to 1,000 days. And that's projected right here. The light blue line is 2021. So what I'm saying is this one chart tells us that we can expect a Bitcoin top to come in somewhere between September 1st, which has already occurred, and we've had no topping signals fire. If you guys have been here for a while, I have a really good published video that I would encourage you to take a look at. I will keep you updated on it. It's so simple. It looks at a handful of cyclical topping indicators and objectively tells us when most likely the Bitcoin top is in or is very close to being in. Now, in this case, what it's telling us is anywhere between September and April, right? So this one view is saying, hypothetically, Bitcoin could go all the way out until April of next year before it tops. Now, in generalities, most of your altcoins are going to top in relative fashion with Bitcoin. Some of them. But most of them top after Bitcoin. There's a flow of liquidity that happens and starts to circulate once Bitcoin is topped into more risk-on assets. People are feeling really, really full of themselves and really exuberant. And so they start to flood their money in from a boring asset of Bitcoin into more exciting potential huge 10, 20, 30, 50 X's, okay? So you typically see your altcoins top several weeks, could be even 2 months after Bitcoin. A month or two after Bitcoin, especially given that things are taking a little bit longer to play out this cycle. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out in this chart. The second thing I wanted to point out in this chart, just as a quick refresher, what we want to see on this weekly Gaussian view is we want to make sure that the candle bodies stay above the green zone. Now, as you recall, I know with 100% certainty, I know I was live streaming around this point in time here. And I was saying, guys, we're okay. I kept saying when we were here, it's okay. We can wick. We're playing with fire. But we can wick into the Gaussian channel. We could fake people out and close above it. As long as we close above the green on the Gaussian channel, we're okay. The wicks express volatility. The wicks do tell a story. But in this case, we care a lot less about the price wicks. All we care about are the candle bodies, the opening and closing price level, okay? So in this case, we stayed above it. Right now keep in mind, this is an ascending trajectory, correct? See how this is increasing in value here? So this line with each weekly close is going to continue to increase in value. 2 weeks ago, the top of the line was at 95.2. Last week it was at 96,000, and this week it is at 96,900. So chances are a week or two out, we're going to be up in that $97,000 to $98,000 area. So as long as we don't see candle body closes get below that $97,000 to $98,000 area in the coming 2 weeks, we're fine. Now again, next week, if you see some sort of sharp volatility and we come all the way down to 95, I want to talk about that for a moment, 95,000, we're okay. We're okay so long as the candle body on that weekly candle closes above the Gaussian channel. So this is something we want to keep a really close eye on. Now, something I wanted to hit on with this $95,000 Bitcoin, the popular thing right now with all the big influencers is Bitcoin to 95,000 and Ethereum to 3,500. All right, it seems to be a pretty consistent message. I think one or two people say it, and then a lot of people echo it. Okay, that's just my observation. Now, look, I always tell you that myself or no one can come out here and they can tell you with certainty what's going to happen. If you follow anyone on YouTube that they tell you that they know what's going to happen, I suggest you unsubscribe from the channel because that's very foolhardy. The reality is I can only tell you I can only observe the charts and kind of read to you what's going on and give you my opinions, but I don't know what's going to happen. Could $95,000 Bitcoin and $35,000 ETH, wow, let's fucking go, $3,500 ETH occur? Of course it could happen. This is crypto, okay? This is the most volatile market. The price that you pay for the outpaced gains that you're making in this market is you've got to stomach the volatility. That's the reality. It's comical to me. I've taken a step back some days and I've looked at my portfolio. I've actually charted my portfolio. You can do that in TradingView. And being this risk-adverse actuary that I am, it's kind of funny that this conservative nature guy is looking at his portfolio and it's swinging up and down large amounts of money, and it doesn't even faze me. That volatility is what I have to stomach for those outpaced gains, So could we hit $95,000 on Bitcoin and $3,500 on ETH? Of course we could. I just don't think it's going to happen, especially given the fact that everyone is calling for it, If I had to take an educated guess on what's going to happen, everyone, now again, news follows the charts, not the other way around. Charts don't follow the news. If I had to take an educated guess on what's going to happen, there's going to be some bullish momentum going into this FOMC meeting. They're going to announce a rate cut, whether it's 25 basis points, it could be 50 basis points. Wouldn't surprise me to see a little sell-off. If we see that sell-off, mark my words, if we see a sell-off, that may be your last buying opportunity because I would expect that would create a local bottom if that were to occur, and we're going to go a lot higher from there. So I would be watching for that. Now, the other thing I want to point out on the weekly chart, and this has nothing to do with the Gaussian view, I do want to point out something that we need to keep an eye on, We've made a higher high here, higher high in price. The MACD is creating a lower high. Look what's also going on with the RSI. Not good, guys. Again, this is something that we spent quite a bit of time talking about, We have this descending resistance. We have this bearish divergence on the weekly. We've come up here a multitude of times, If you want to see Bitcoin hit those really high price levels that I think it could hit, again, my topping area was last time I shared with you guys was between 130 and 180. I don't think we're going to hit 200,000. But if we want to get up towards that 180 mark, if that's ultimately where price is going to top out at, guys, we have to negate this bearish divergence. You've got to see RSI come up here and break 70. You want to see the RSI break 70 and get up here, If that doesn't happen, again, I can't tell you what's going to happen. If this bearish divergence, we get a fourth tap here and we don't break it, you're just going to see a lower top come in on Bitcoin, You're going to see a lower cyclical top. Now, this is a really interesting view, and allow me to explain what's going on here. So, near the top of the live stream, one of the things that I shared with you as a reminder is that I have a topping indicator video out there. Something, I'm just sharing with you my sell strategy, okay? My sell strategy is very simple, okay? I have a handful of topping indicators because I recognize that not every historical topping indicator will indefinitely fire. Again, that's implying certainty. The price cycle, which I believe will not fire this cycle, and we'll get into that in a moment of why I feel that way. The price cycle is one of those indicators that I think if you're solely relying on, you have a really high potential of getting burned badly, okay? So my sell strategy for my altcoins and Bitcoin goes like this. The topping signals begin to fire for Bitcoin, okay? Let's say 2 topping indicators, a third topping indicator. I'm scaling out of Bitcoin. I'm scaling out at this point. I don't know if the top's in. I don't know if the top's going to be in a day later, a week later, even a month later. I don't know, but these topping indicators are telling me it's a smart time to sell. The next thing I'm going to be watching for is just how high Bitcoin goes until it starts to roll over a bit and looks toppy, looking at some pricing indicators. That amount of froth that's created in the market, whether it's on the lower side or on the higher side, is going to help me to infer what I should be able to see in my altcoins, right? I have ranges for my altcoins. How high or how low they can go is also going to be based on the froth within the market. As Bitcoin tops, I'm now going to be looking at my altcoins. I've already been scaling out of Bitcoin. Now I'm looking at my altcoins. Now I'm looking at my altcoins and I'm looking to scale out of those, right? As we start to create that parabolic price action on a lot of those charts, 10%, 20%, 25%. I'm scaling out. So that is how I'm approaching the market. Now this Bitcoin price cycle topping chart here, let me clearly depict to you what's going on here. So there's a lot of lines on the chart at the moment. So the first thing to focus your eyes on is the blue line and the orange line. Okay, the orange line is what we call a fast period moving average, and the blue line is what we call a slow period moving average. These are really 2 basic concepts that I think I can clearly convey to you. The fast period moving average is simply an average of more recent price action, and so it's going to be a lot more susceptible to volatility. A slow period moving average, the reason it's slow, it's not as reactionary to immediate price action because the average price that's being plotted on the chart is over a huge time frame, okay? That's why it's a lot less susceptible to volatility. It also should make sense that if what I explained to you made sense, when we started to come down hard here, okay, look how quickly this orange line moved down. The blue line, the blue line's still moving up because it's catching up to all this price data here. It's a moving average based on a longer period of time, okay? So it's a lot less reactionary to immediate price action. Now, historically what we've seen on the price cycle topping indicator, okay, I'll tell you what we've seen, and then I'll tell you why I don't think it's going to be firing this cycle. And I feel fairly confident about that. The fast period moving average, by the time the orange line intersected the blue line, it called the exact top. Now you'll note here that price action was well above both moving averages, right? That was in 17. Let's go to 21. What happened in 21? Now again, just to rehash, even though this made a higher high than back here, this was a double top. It was part of a corrective structure. This was not impulsive price action, okay? We've talked about this probably at least 20 times, more than 20 times. This was not impulsive. This was impulsive. This was the true impulsive top, okay? And what happened? Well, in relative fashion, when the orange line touched the blue line, it called the cycle top to the day. And you can also see that price is not as high. I mean, look at this. You can just eyeball this. I don't need to measure it. We could, but I'm not going to. Look how far above the blue and orange line we are. Not really that far. Go back to 21. Now, this should intuitively make sense. Look how much higher we are above this line. Again, you have a more immature asset. It takes less money to move it. It's more susceptible to volatility, right? So that should make sense that it overshot it by so much. Now the asset, which is Bitcoin, is growing in value. It's becoming harder. It's manipulated just like everything else in the market, but it's getting hard. It takes more money to move it. It's a little bit less volatile. We don't get above it. Now, why do I think that the price cycle is going to fail? So let me show you a couple lines first off. The green line is just an area of ascending support. You can see we fell below it here. You can see we're riding it right here. The red line, okay, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the red line and the black line in particular. The red line represents an ascending area of resistance on the fast period moving average. I am hypothesizing the fast period moving average is going to break this ascending line, and Bitcoin will be topping in relatively short fashion after that. Okay? You can also see the black line of resistance here. Question will be, can we break out from that? If the cyclical top, for example, came in let's just say the very beginning of December, the top of this line is at 175,000. The middle of November is coming in at 170,000. So that 170 to 175, the further we extend out into January, it goes up to 180. Now the reason we could break back above the black line. Make no mistake, we could break above this black line, but that would be a key sign to me that some of those topping indicators that are in that video I shared with you, they should be firing. Why do I think that the price cycle is going to fail? Look at where the blue line is. Now, this blue line is going to continue to move up. You see, it's an ascending line, right? It's catching up. It's not as responsive to immediate price action. It's catching up to all the higher price action that we've seen. If we just guesstimate, okay, some sort of slow growth here up, okay? We're saying, and for the fast, by the way, for the fast period moving average to hit the slow period moving average, you could probably actually create a formula to figure this out. But you're going to have price action, I would think, at the very least, hit this blue line. It wouldn't make sense to me otherwise, because the fast period moving average is indicative of the most recent price action. So you need that price action to, at the very least, get to the blue line. Yes, I've convinced myself into that just by talking out loud. Now, if we topped, let's say we top anywhere between, and it gets even more ridiculous as we get into 2026. Let's just focus on 25 for the moment. So if we focus on mid-November to the end of the year, we're saying at the very least Bitcoin would have to be up at 215 to 230. I don't see prices going that high. I really don't. I've already shared that with you guys. I would love to be wrong. I would, because if Bitcoin exceeds my expectations and breaks 180, a lot of price targets that I've communicated, I don't think, I've been telling you guys, if you get a $5 XRP, if it gets in that $5 area, I would be selling it hand over fist. But some of those price targets, even Ethereum, which I believe will go somewhere between 7 to 12,000, those price targets, if Bitcoin exceeds $200,000, I would have to revisit them because there would be a ton of exuberance in the market. I don't see Bitcoin breaking 180. You're going to have to see price action come all the way up here. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. Okay? Now, the other thing that we should consider before we move off of this chart, because I have spent some time talking about this, and we're going to get into some of these altcoin views that get into what I'm sharing here. I absolutely think there is a scenario, okay, where in the fourth quarter of this year, okay, we're moving up. And there's at least one topping signal that fires, okay? Things get really frothy. Your altcoins start running really hard. And there is a scenario where I could see that not being the cyclical top. We have a long extended correction for 4, 5, 6 months, and then we top out in 2026 and more of those topping signals fire. But here's the thing. I don't know that that's going to happen. Clearly, I don't know. I have a working thesis based on other views that I've evaluated that absolutely lend credence to this cycle going well into 2026, okay? But I don't know that. You don't know that. Nobody knows that, okay? So what I'm telling you is whether it's the fourth quarter of this year, it's the first quarter of next year, if those topping signals begin to fire and your altcoins start getting frothy thereafter, you better be scaling out of your investments. My plan is if those topping signals do begin to fire in the fourth quarter of this year or as late as the first quarter, I'm going to be selling out of the majority of everything I own. 80 to 100%. 80 to 100%, I'm going to be out of the market, And the reality is, no one ever got hurt taking a profit. If the data is telling me that objectively some of these topping signals are firing, things are getting really euphoric, my altcoins are running really hard, I don't care if they're even at the lower end of what I expected. I can profit. I can sit back. I can allow the market to digest the price action, and then I can decide, do I want to re-enter, right? And we can have a conversation then. But I think it would be very foolish of you if the data is telling us we're getting really toppy here in the fourth quarter or the first quarter of next year. If you don't sell, I think it's going to be a major mistake. I think it'll be a major mistake. Remember, you can always sell, even if these are long-term investments, okay? You can sell, and then you can get back into the market at a later point if you think that makes sense, all right? Let me get to the comments here. Before we get into altcoins, I've neglected the comments just because I wanted to make sure I had time to cover everything. I also want to stop this live stream by a certain time. All right, who do we got here? Donkey Don. What's going on, brother? Count the millions you made. Yeah, man, I wish I had multi-millions. I wish I did. I don't have multi-millions. Earthwalker, welcome in. Good to see you. Todd, man, always appreciated the super chat. Never expected, but always appreciated, kind sir. Welcome back. I know you're going to cover CAS. Yes, sir, I will be covering CAS. You better believe I will be. And I'm going to give you my honest assessment of the chart, as always. No, Donkey Dong, I'm not 500x up. I'm 5,000x up. And I was just joking. I really do have multi-millions. Yes. And I still work a full-time job because that would make sense. Welcome in, Juan. Good to see you. I missed coming out here as well. Like I said, just as a reminder for those who are joining, once the market really starts to pick up, meaning once this chart really starts moving, okay, we're going to be live streaming a lot more. Let's just waiting for that moment. Evan, man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome in, Natty Light. Welcome in. Evan's blowing up the comments as always. Gotta love it. Crypto is about to Amazon. I hope so. I've seen some comparisons between... I love when people put the fractals up. They take a fractal of Amazon and then they expand it out and manipulate it, and then they put it on Ethereum and say, look, Ethereum's going to pull it on Amazon. I don't know. To each his own. Let's get into the altcoin space. Wanted to cover the broader indices here. And then I also know that I should have a fair number of members from the Caspa community watching, so either in syndication or live, and so we'll cover that chart as well. I don't know what more do I need to tell you here? Price indicators look great. Look at the MACD. RSI is at, this is a 2-week on the total 2. So this is the entire altcoin index, right? This is every altcoin because all it is taking out Bitcoin. So this includes Ethereum, which really does kind of skew things a little bit, but this is total 2. The RSI is at 63. Stochastic RSI is looking great. Let's just focus on price action, guys. Look at this. We right now, look at this. This resistance that we couldn't get above in December of last year, we're now sitting on top of it as support. Okay, very, very bullish. This red line of support, red line of resistance goes all the way back to 2022. So I just want to set the stage for you. Not only is this in creating higher highs and higher lows, obviously, it also looks like some form of an ascending triangle. You know, if we draw it like so, you can draw it a couple different ways, but you know, you're sort of looks like an ascending triangle. We're also sitting on top of what was prior resistance as support, and we're pressed right up against all-time highs we haven't seen in nearly 4 years. So I don't know how you can't be bullish on this. We're literally just waiting for 1.7 to break. Let's take a look at total 3. I actually love this view even more. Again, when you look at a chart like this, I don't understand how you can't be mega bullish, right? I mean, if we inverted this, if I did this, this would not be good, okay? This is a descending triangle. This to me looks like a descending triangle. This would not be good, okay? And we would break down. This is no bueno. This looks like a Casper chart, okay? If we uninvert it and we look at this, there's a few things going on here that I want to convey. So first off, there's a blue line of support, that has held since December of 2019. Let's fucking go. All right? I drew an extra black line of support here, but basically, this is an ascending triangle. This is an extremely bullish pattern. Okay? We're coiling up, and remember what I've said on this channel. I didn't make this up. These are just the laws of the charts. We hit this area once. We hit it twice. We hit it thrice. We hit it basically 4 and 5 times, okay? This resistance is, when it breaks, it's going to break, okay? It's getting weaker and weaker. Yes, the fact that we're not able to get above it on the second or third time does convey to us that it's an area of resistance and it's going to be hard to get above. But here's the other thing that happens, as I always say. It's like a jackhammer hitting a wall. It's getting weaker and weaker. Soon you're going to be able to Incredible Hulk your way through the wall and just break through. Now, these are my targets here based on some fib extensions. I've drawn out 3.1 trillion, and I shared this on X. 3.1 all the way up to 4.5. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's a volatile market. That's a wide range for a million. There's a 1.4 million margin there. I don't know where it's going to go in there. No one does. But my educated guess says 3.1 to 4.5. The other interesting tidbit of information that I have here is an ascending line. This isn't going to indefinitely work. We can fall short this time and only hit 3.1. There's no reason we have to hit this line. We could overshoot it and hit 4.5. It's just an interesting observation to keep an eye on. That's all. But this is mega bullish. I just don't know. Here's the thing. I think some people are hyper-focused on their individual altcoin. They hold a coin that's like spot number 500 or 200, and they're like, this thing's just not moving. Guys, this indice is what we really need to focus on. Why is that? Well, first off, it comprises every altcoin outside Ethereum. Secondly, because it comprises all altcoins outside of Ethereum, it's removing a lot of noise. It's a bigger number, so it's less volatile. This is giving you a complete picture of altcoin performance, right? And once this starts to break out from all-time highs, historically, that is when you see the absolute most wildest price action in the altcoin market. So we're just waiting for 1.7 to, what is it? No, that was on total too. We're just waiting for, what is this line here? Oh, excuse me. I get up at 4:15, 4:30. 1.13 trillion. Okay, 1.13 trillion. We're just waiting for that to break. Now, this is one of these charts that to me, and I had posted this out recently on Twitter, this is one of these charts that tells me that I don't see us topping ultimately in the fourth quarter. Maybe it's the first quarter, maybe it's the second quarter of next year. I don't know. But we are in a falling wedge, and we haven't even broken resistance. This is, by the way, this is the others divided by BTC. It's a relationship that tells you the strength of the others indice relative to Bitcoin. Others are all of the altcoins outside of the top 10. Another interesting fact that I've shown here, this is an ascending line of resistance here, so it'll be interesting to see if we interact with that. But again, once we break out of this falling wedge, okay, you can see the volumes really. What's up with my mouse? Hold on. Okay. You can see that volume is really picking up here. Now, once we break out of here, we're not just going to come up here and then roll over. I mean, this is going to be explosive. I just don't see how this doesn't at least go into the first quarter of next year. So this is one of these views to me that just really, it's really screaming that the top's not going to come in the fourth quarter. And again, we're going to focus on the most prominent charts to tell us when it's smart to start selling. Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe this view doesn't pan out the way I think, but I have enough charts that I've spoken to that I'm looking at to evaluate the market to tell me when it would be smart to start selling. But this one at least is, I don't know, it's telling me that this cycle could go on a little longer than most people are expecting. Let's take a look at Caspa, because price has not been doing so well, and I'm not too enthusiastic about what I've seen going on as of recent. Now, one of the things I've been keeping an eye on, and you can assess the relative strength of your altcoin. Again, Caspa is my largest altcoin holding. I still have a ton of conviction on it. Nothing has changed there. However, with that being said, we've generally been staying right in this area, 42 at the lowest. We're starting to drop here, 48, and we're in jeopardy of losing top 50. Okay, that's showing relative weakness in the market. Now, as you'll also recall, I'm trying to get the best chart up here that I can. We're holding 8 cents as support, by the way, which is good to see. We still have a higher, couple of things here I would point out. We have some higher lows coming in here, right? We still have these lower highs. We still need to break up above 13 cents. And ultimately, I told you, 14.8 is my area. I've been saying 14.8 cents for a long time now. Once we clear 14.8 cents, I think that's when we're going to be skyrocketing to new all-time highs. But let me also show you the W pattern, which is hopefully still in play. I haven't looked at it in a little while. Yeah, it's still in play. So this is a double bottom W formation. You can see how the technical target is drawn. The line here to break is 13 cents, okay? I still consider 14.8 the most important area. The technical target takes us up to around 30 cents or a little bit above that. Now, that doesn't mean that's where we're going to top. I've also been telling you with Caspa that because we've spent so much time consolidating between 20 cents and essentially 6 cents, we've spent so much time in that range. Once 20 cents breaks, typically when you have that much level of consolidation, okay, we had unsustainable price action. And eventually, we had to cool off. We had to create market structure. This is healthy. So long as 5 cents, I don't want to see 5 cents break. If 5 cents breaks, not good, okay? Don't want to see 5 cents break. But as long as 5 cents holds, okay, all we've been doing is creating a base, okay? Market structure. How many more lines and circles can I draw here? Are you all watching the screen? Are you still watching? So that is very healthy for the chart. We need to establish market structure. Once we break out, a couple things to illustrate here. Once we break out from 20 cents, given that we've consolidated in here for so long, we're not going to pop up to 30 cents and then roll over. We might pop up to 30 cents, have a pullback, but we should continue going higher my guesstimate would be, well, I've given price targets on CAS, but I think let's wait for it to get up towards the 50-cent area and we can have a conversation. But we should be going north of $1. And the nice thing about the market structure down here is it should theoretically create a floor for price, whether it's 5 cents, whether it's 8 cents, whether it's 10 cents, whatever the case is. Once we have our cyclical top come in, and then we have that 90% plus correction, this area should provide support. The price should never be entering this expansion phase, okay? That was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We've now spent a monumental amount of time consolidating, okay? So W pattern is still in play. We got the higher lows coming in. We don't have the higher highs. I don't want to lose 8 cents. I was discouraged to see 8 cents break, but it actually looks like we closed had a different chart with a different area of support, I thought. So at the moment, 8 cents is holding, which is good to see. I really don't want to lose that, though, because if you start to lose 8 cents, it's going to open up the door to come all the way down here to 6 cents, and you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire because then you're inviting the opportunity to come down here, and I don't want to get anywhere near 5 cents because we've hit that area already enough. We come down again, just like any other area of price confluence is going to weaken, whether it's resistance or support. The more times you hit it, the more it weakens, okay? First touch is fine. Double bottom, okay. 3 times, fine. Once we go past 3 hits on an area of confluence, that's when it gets extremely dangerous if we're talking about to the downside. So that's what I would be watching on CASPA. Is there anything else I can share? Evan, man. Always blowing up the comments. Anything else I can share with you, Todd? The other thing I would share with you. We are still in a falling wedge here. That's where I had this resistance. Okay, so on a more granular level, I didn't like to see 8.3 cents lost. Okay, you can now see clearly it is an area of price confluence because we came all the way up. It's not coincidental. We literally touched 8.3 cents and rolled over. But we are actually in a bullish pattern. We are in a falling wedge. We could come down here. We could come back down to 7.6 cents or so, 7.5. Once this breaks, you should see a nice rise to the upside. The question is, if and when this falling wedge does break, it has a higher likelihood of breaking to the upside. Will it be a dead cat bounce? We're going to roll over. Or will it begin the market structure that we need to see to create the higher highs and higher lows to come into the market? Now, the last chart that I want to share with you is the Bitcoin dominance chart. And honestly, I haven't even pulled this up in a little while. There was a nice little chart that I put together, and I'm hoping it's this one. And it is. Now, we've been talking, and mind you, this line was probably drawn on a monthly view. When you draw a line like this of support, you can't have candle bodies going through like this. Clearly, I drew this on a different time frame, so bear with me on that. But this is a 2-week chart. And the thing that I kept telling everyone when we were here, and 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 here, is be patient. Because the move that we're seeing in Bitcoin dominance is unsustainable. There's a reason, guys. There is a reason why it is so difficult to profit in this market. I saw a post recently that I thought was articulated very well. You weren't rich. You're not rich. Let's say you got into the market when I did. You're not rich if you bought Bitcoin here. You're rich if you bought it here, held it to up here, held it when it went down from 17,000 down to 4, held it when it went up to 60, then held it when it went down to 15, and now we're holding it up at 120,000, okay? You've got to, the volatility is something you've got to stomach. Again, and that's why I stress to you, unless if something objectively, materially changes in the chart, it shouldn't change your investment thesis, right? Caspa would have to break down below 5 cents for me to really say, okay, maybe I'm wrong about this, and this thing really could go to a penny. It would have to break 5 cents. It never broke 5 cents, right? It has maintained market structure within a consolidated fashion, okay? Bitcoin always had market structure that if you were paying attention and you were following and you were convicted, it just presented buying opportunities with each massive correction. Bitcoin dominance is no different. If you want to succeed in this market on the altcoin side, you need to respect and appreciate the fact of what I spoke to at the very start of the live stream. We've been in a bull market this entire time. But what is this chart telling us? This isn't a Bitcoin chart. This is a Bitcoin dominance chart. Bitcoin has outperformed. What this is telling you is Bitcoin has outperformed the vast majority of altcoins the entire bull market. Okay? It's only this little phase here that we get to enjoy the altcoins going batshit crazy. Okay? Look. Just look to the past. In 2018, Bitcoin continued to outperform altcoins the entire bull cycle. We saw a little dip here and a rise up, and then all of a sudden, bam, we came down. Outperformance, bam, we came down. It's taking a little bit longer. Outperformance, bam, we're going to come down, okay? So another clue to tell you how heated the market is on the altcoin side, just go to the Bitcoin dominance chart. And I'll reshare this on X, but I have different zones drawn out here based on price confluence. Right now, right now, we're sitting at 58%. Zone 2, we're just in zone 1. In fact, we're in the middle of zone 1, okay? Zone 2 is between 55 and 51, okay? Now, once we get down to 55 to 51, things should really start to be heating up. But guess what? It's like for all those who are as old as I am, you remember the Super Nintendo game NBA Jam. He's heating up, okay? When you get into zone 2, you're heating up. When you're in zone 3, he's on fire. You're on fire, okay? You're going to break 51%. 50% is a psychological area. You could go as low, what I have drawn, depending on when we bottom here, you could come all the way down to the low 40% area. A dream scenario, okay? This ascending line of support that has been holding so far, a dream scenario, which would amount to a mega alt season, would be if this ascending line of support breaks and we start to dip at 40%, around, I would say 42%, 43%. If you see Bitcoin dominance at about 42 or 43%, there's a chance we could come all the way down to 35% or lower. I can't even begin to fathom the movements in the market. But at the very least, this is not going to, mark my words. I can't tell you with certainty what's going to happen, but mark my words on what I feel confident with. You're not going to come down to zone 2 and bottom here and then continue up. Okay, this is so unlikely, okay? We're going to come down at the very least to zone 3. A lot of people think Bitcoin dominance is not going to break 50%. They're going to be proven wrong, okay? We're at 58 now. We haven't seen a true alt season. We're going to break 50. The question is, does this ascending line of support hold, or do we enter the dream scenario, okay? That's all I got for you guys. I hope you appreciated the content. This should give you some ammunition for confidence coming up in the coming months. I don't anticipate, unless if something unexpected happens, I don't anticipate doing a live stream probably in the next, 2 weeks or so. I think once we get into October, things are going to start to heat up. So this last week here, the 29th of September, I might, depending how the market's reacting, I might start to come out here a little bit more active. But I assure you, once things really do start to heat up and the market is really moving, I'm going to be out here a lot more frequently for 2 reasons, okay? I'm just keeping it real with you. One, if I'm coming out here and I'm charting things with you, it's keeping me honest. Believe it or not, it's keeping me honest. Because I don't have the time to prepare material. I don't have anyone working with me. I don't have the time to prepare material ahead of the live stream. So everything is reactionary, which I think hopefully you appreciate on the live stream. Everything is reactionary based on the charts I'm pulling up, what I'm seeing, right? So it's keeping me honest. I'm assessing the market. The second thing is I'm honestly sharing with you what I see and helping you to keep informed on what's going on in the market. So I'll be out here once the market really starts picking up in the fourth quarter. I appreciate each and every one that made time to show up today. Felt nice to do a live stream. Haven't done one in a while. If you haven't already, make sure to give me a follow on X, okay, or Twitter, whichever you prefer. It's one word. There are some fake, stupid people out there. It's one word. It's Crypto Bull God. You can find me on X or Twitter. Obviously, I hope that you choose to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for all notifications and know when I go live. I may consider putting out a published video. You know, the interesting thing, before I sign off, the interesting thing is if I really wanted to get more views on my channel, I would just be doing published videos. I would not be doing live streams, okay? Live streams get less views than a published video. So clearly I enjoy coming out here and doing the live streams. But maybe I'll put out a published video or two. We'll see. But in any event, let's all spread awareness and carry the education forward. Good to see everyone. Thank you.